Cool. All right, Jake.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Drawing for Tattooers. Today we've got Jake Meeks. Jake is going to
Morning.
draw for us. So let's watch Jake's screen. See some drawing.
Let's do it. Let's see. Go to my screen here.
Awesome.
Want me to kind of talk about what we're doing here. This piece is a little different for me, and I actually took it on. I'm tattooing it this week, this Thursday, and I actually took it on because it is. I took it on thinking a little bit about our group, the Inside Fireside Tattoo Club. We've got a drawing challenge coming up this month, and I wanted to focus on separating, on creating like atmospheric perspective, or separating foreground, midground, background, in tattoos. And a lot of times, where you run into the challenges with that is whenever you have a lot of subject matter, and this person has a lot of ideas. He's into fly fishing, nature, family, all these different things he wanted, like we all hear, like a lot of stuff he wanted to represent in this piece. And normally I overshoot the space and draw pretty big, larger, kind of more simple shapes, maybe a little more like illustrative. But the point with this one was I wanted to illustrate that even with a lot of stuff happening, you can still group things by kind of family and make it read from a distance. So I'm still kind of early on. I just started this last night, but the idea being that like I've got this kind of like silhouette of a fly fisherman with his line that's going to sweep over to the chest, and then I'll have a lure kind of in the immediate foreground, and then family, nature. I've got like a kid kind of playing in the water, chasing a little like playing with a boat. And so these shapes, I haven't really looked at a whole lot to as far as reference goes. I'm just trying to like approximate where I want stuff to sit, and it gets a little noodly and a little noisy. But what I thought I'd do for a little bit today is kind of start to simplify it by pushing my strongest kind of contrast, my darks versus my lights, in the immediate foreground, and then the midground reducing that contrast a little further, and in the background reducing it even further, so that I have maybe like a 1 to a 10 on the value scale in the foreground, and then like maybe a 2 to a 7 or so in the midground, and then maybe like just a 4 to 6 in the background, so that I'm just scrunching that value range as I scoot backwards. And what that'll do is it'll start to create some like a hierarchy within the design as a whole as I do it. And so the piece, even though there'll be a lot happening in it, the piece will read clearly from a distance. You guys have that problem when you're like doing something that has a lot of, like, you're tattooing something, or for a drawing, for a painting, whatever, that has a lot of stuff happening, and it gets very bitsy, and you just can't seem to like find a way to keep it from being noisy and overwhelming. This is kind of my solution to that.
So you're kind of like glazing right now.
Yeah, I'm just right now what I'm starting to do, because I started sketching last night and I have a lot of noise happening.
Mm-hmm.
So what I started doing this morning, let me see if I want the same layer. What I started doing this morning is just the first thing that I started doing was just locking shadow shapes together. So if you notice down here, like how the shadows are locked to the shadows, or locked to the silhouette of this, the line will kind of tie to the silhouette of this. I'm just trying to find a way to like pull where all my shadow shapes kind of connect a little bit, as a way to lead the viewer through the piece a little. And then I'll go through in the kind of midground and start to knock back some of the lightest light tones, because I want so you can just see with that little bit that I did right there. So I've got the strongest lights and the strongest darks right here. And if I were to take what I just did away, where is it? See, I've got the strong lights here as well now, but as soon as I put that back, that starts to sit back, and this starts to come forward. And so that's what I'm kind of trying to do now, is just everything in this foreground will be my darkest darks and lightest lights, my strongest contrast. I'll limit that a little more here, and I'll limit it a little more up here. So, and I don't really have a solution to it yet. I'm just, I'm fumbling with it. Everything that I draw ends up kind of noisy on the front end, then I have to go back and settle it all in.
Well, it's so fascinating watching people make their work.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
And I think getting to see this peek behind the curtain, as it were,
Hmm.
is like it's really interesting. Not only for people who do this, right, but for collectors too. I think I just remember like growing up, going to the amusement park and watching caricature artists making the caricatures of people sitting down. It was such a fascinating process, and then uh, it would just emerge, right? They would start off with some really sketchy lines, and then this sort of thing would emerge. It occurred to me later that it was a very much a performance. Like the
Yeah,
artist was sitting there and they were being watched. And I guess I feel the same way about our tattooing. Like while we're tattooing, at least the person that's tattooing you, that you're tattooing is in some way they're observing you. And then of course they may have people that come and offer moral support, but you're going to be constantly um, under observation, as it were, right?
yeah,
If you do this kind of work, and so it's not just like putting it out there. There's also this act of actually doing it. So
yeah,
I like that you're sharing your drawing process with us.
yeah.
Um,
Thanks. Yeah, it's funny, and I guess over the years you stop thinking quite as much about being observed, especially if it's something that you don't love the idea of. Like I never pay attention to whether my client or whether whoever's with them is actually over my shoulder watching, but it's something that I used to notice and really stress over for the first few years of my career tattooing. It's funny. It's almost like you would think that like they have a better solution to the problem than you, and they're just not sharing it with you. They're just like judging you, looking over your shoulder. And after a while, you start to realize they have no idea what you're doing. They're just curious. But
Totally. Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's you're right. It's not something to be upset about or worried. It's just a fact. It's just a fact about it, right? You're it's interesting what you do. It's
right.
fascinating to people, and they may very well be entranced by it rather than have a solution, like you say.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's usually the case, and I always uh, talk about people just being curious about it. It's amazing how many of my clients and uh, their friends and family or whatever that keep up with what, like for example, like the Fireside mailing list. It's funny. We've got this Tattoo Tips Tuesday thing newsletter that we send out, and somehow it was unintentional, but I know how to fix it. I've never fixed it. When someone signs up for anything, like whether it is intentionally for the Tattoo Tuesday newsletter, or whether it's one of my clients signing up to get tattooed, filling out the consultation form or whatever, everyone gets dumped onto that Tattoo Tips Tuesday newsletter. And it's funny because I'll see who it's delivered to sometimes. Some people have auto replies and I'll see those things come through. And I'll go like, oh, wow, like whatever, Pete, like, why is he getting that? He's the guy I'm doing that back piece on. And our newsletter is for tattooers. It's not for people who get tattooed. It's all tattoo tips for artists. But it's amazing how many of my clients open and read the Tattoo Tips Tuesdays. They're like, I don't know what half of it is, but I just really enjoy, like kind of keeping up with it. Or they'll jump on and watch episodes or listen to interviews or whatever. People are just really into into tattoos, and it's not that they ever think they're going to do a tattoo. They just think the whole thing is fascinating and cool. And so it's funny, like just how many, like our mailing list, we look at our mailing list and we think of them as potential customers, or tattooers that we might be able to help in some way. And it's very skewed right now because there's like 200 of my clients on the list.
That's awesome. And I guess I wouldn't have thought that either.
Yeah,
Because so I'm a proud member of the Fireside
yeah,
Network. I enjoy
absolutely.
coming to the events, and they are really geared for tattooers. So this is a great plug. Let me throw up the QR code real quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, thank you. We're getting
yeah,
to it.
so Fireside Network offers all kinds of events. These are online mainly, uh, But of course, you can find Jake at all sorts of conventions. And of course, coming up later this year, Paradise.
The Paradise Gathering is going to
Paradise.
be. I had so much fun last year. This year is really going to be awesome. We've got some great people signed up so far. I'm excited to get to work with and see Steve Butcher work a little bit. I tattooed no, I podcasted. He tattooed in Venice at the Venetian Gathering years ago, and we were very close. We were like 2 booths away from each other. And he came down and borrowed my lighting setup to photograph his tattoo at the end of each day, because I had a podcast set up with lots of lights. And that Venetian Gathering was in a palace that was very cool but incredibly poorly lit. And so I got to see all of his work at the end of each day up close and personal, because he was borrowing my station to photograph it. And that's my only experience with the guy, but he was like such an incredible tattooer. So, and he's one of the headliners at Paradise this year. That I'm excited to meet him again and get to know him a little better and see what he's working on.
That's amazing. So, right, just back to that notion that your customers are interested in your Tattoo Tips Tuesdays, right? They're interested in the educational content, not necessarily to apply it, but just because it is high quality. There's a value offering. It's nice, and I think so for tattooers, it's a really valuable resource. But it's interesting that you're mentioning that your customers also appreciate it, and I think that's even that even makes it just something you could talk about with them, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny how much they'll pick up. You'll be working on whatever. I mean, working on their piece, and I just do 1 tattoo a day, and it's about 6 or 7 hours, in the day. And so, if it's something on someone's arm, then we spend a lot of time there watching the progress we made. And it's amazing how they keep up with and comprehend stuff that they either hear on the podcast or read in the Tattoo Tips Tuesday or whatever, and they'll recognize like what I'm doing. If I come back with a liner at the end, and start to build up a few lines, they'll make the comment like, "Oh yeah, I remember you talking about this, how you like you don't do your lines until the end." Like, yeah, that's right. That's a good catch on that. So it's funny how not just that they're just like, not just that they're paying attention, but that they're really comprehending it and seeing it in practice and understanding what's happening. It's pretty cool. What are you guys drawing on today? Drawing for tattoos or just drawing?
I'm working on for the Monday night drawing class. I'm trying to tweak this a little bit more and then get it ready for tonight, and then just continue on with other stuff for the week.
What is what is for the drawing challenge? Is y'all's drawing challenge like a weekly or monthly thing?
Weekly. How's the monthly thing work out?
The monthly thing is fun. I mean, it gives you a lot more time to procrastinate, which a lot of us do. But it's the same thing. We have a loose idea like this. We haven't announced. We announced them on the 1st, which I think is tomorrow or the next day. But what it will be is this, separating background, foreground. But I try to make everything. I've experimented with it a lot, but Dan, who helps me so much with this, and I've experimented a lot on the drawing challenges as to just like how far away we can get from tattooing and still keep people engaged and interested. I like to paint and work outside of the tattoo medium, and a lot of the stuff that I do doesn't lend itself to tattooing like really easily. And so what I've found over the year and a half or so that we've done this group is that I have to find a way to try to tie it back into tattooing. So something like this last year, I would have just done it as like, an atmospheric kind of exercise for, that you might use in watercolor and, whatever else, charcoal, anything. But for this one, I'm going to try to focus on it being silhouettes, that you could actually stencil, but silhouettes of different levels of contrast and value so that we can, like, as simply as possible, push one thing in the distance and push something else into the foreground, using just the scale, like the shapes themselves and the size of the shapes, and then the value range that we use in each area of the drawing, and then the variation of edges, like hard edges versus soft edges. But yeah, the drawing challenges are still something we're always kind of fumbling with and trying to figure out how to get people involved. For a while, we did a voting system at the end of each month, and the winners I would mail out an actual prize. Like, I would just go to Kingpin or whatever and buy ink sets or buy whatever and mail them out to winners. And it turned out that didn't work as well as I had thought. For one thing, people don't want other people buying their supplies. Like, if I buy an ink set of whatever Fusion and you use Eternal, you're just going to be like, man, I don't use those. Like, they'll just go in some bin. Or cartridges. If you're set on a cartridge or needle brand and I buy the wrong one and send it to you, it's just going to sit there. Like, so often, like when you go to a convention and you get the little goodie bags that are full of a bunch of stuff that you're not familiar with, and so they just sit there. That's kind of what was happening. And I don't think people really loved the voting system. Like, it's not a competitive environment as much as I guess I thought maybe I wanted it to be to begin with. The Fireside group they're not competitive with each other at all. So the idea that someone's a winner and someone's a loser just didn't appeal to them. And so we've taken away all the competitive aspects, and we basically just issue the drawing challenge, and then we do a critique night at the end of the month, and I pull everyone's drawings in from the drawing challenge. And I kind of lead the critiques, but we have some really solid tattooers in this group. So I lead the critiques, but there's always great, ideas that come from other people. The only difference is I'm the one with the pen in my hand and in control of the screen. So I'm doing the drawing on top of I'm doing the physical critiques, like drawing on top of their drawings. But I get so much feedback from other artists in the group that's so helpful. So it's a good group. We have a great group of people now, and it's grown slowly but steadily. And I think that maybe I was a little disappointed early on that it didn't grow at the clip that I wanted it to, but now looking back a year and a half later, I'm glad at the pace. I'm happy with the pace, because we've just got a group of people that all kind of know each other well now, and they work together, they get along together, they travel together, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, you definitely learn a lot of like trial and error stuff as it like slowly builds up compared to just having like a huge load right off the bat,
Right. Yeah.
I'm showing off the Fireside Tattoo Network. This is looks like the blog, I think. And
yeah, that is so this was Gabe Ripley's idea for us to go through and basically build a curate all of the content. We spent 10 years with YouTube curating all of our content, just throwing out episodes and doing nothing with them afterwards. And because of that, there were a lot of good episodes that just didn't, that went under the radar. And of course, there were some episodes that that did really well. But once an episode went out, there was nothing else that ever happened with it. And so what Gabe's idea, if you go up to that tattoo topics there, there's resources, and just click the drop down. So those categories, news is just the most recent stuff, but drawing, techniques, gear, science, business, and mindset, those are our kind of big tranches that as we went through all of our videos and started to catalog them, those were the things that we kind of found were the main categories. So everything in there, anything in business and mindset is going to be like that. There's one with Russ Abbott. There's one with Carson Hill. And these are just episodes that we had put out on YouTube. And if you click on any of those, Dan has done a great job of doing kind of deep dives on them, making small clips, writing little blog posts. And then of course there's the full episode in there as well. And so we're just going through and slowly curating and cataloging the entire Fireside library. And it's been an undertaking, but yeah, so everything kind of falls under those four main categories. And the cool thing about it is we can, any one of those episodes might be 15 or 20 pieces of content. If you take an hour-long episode and we break out a lot of 30-second to 3-minute clips. Well, and suddenly you've got all of these things for social media, for blogs, for email series, for, whatever, for everything.
It's a great website, and all of your content is now accessible, right? Because like you said, it's in this huge abyss of like YouTube. Right? Like, how do you find it? But you guys have done a great job. You and Dan have done a great job of curating everything and then making it, again, just you can find it's indexed. You can find what you're looking for, and then you can return to it, share it with other people.
Right.
It's a lot of really insightful bits of information. And I think, for instance, one thing that comes to mind is your interview with Carson Hill, for example. That's a great that is a great look into pneuma machines. How much research and development he put into those is extraordinary. This other one that you did about complementary colors, I'm kind of showing that right now. That's a great.
Great
episode. Yeah, great little clip.
Those little short ones, we started calling them 3 minutes to better tattooing. That idea came from Sean Bellina, who was he owns, or is one of the owners of Spirit Paper, the stencil paper, and he owns S8, which makes the red paper and all that. And I was at a convention with him, and we were just brainstorming on stuff, and he was talking about this is just as social videos were kind of getting big. So I don't know if TikTok was a thing. It probably was. But it was whenever we were kind of moving from videos to short clips, and he was like, "Oh, you should start like doing short clips." And he even used the term 3 minutes to better tattooing. And I was like, "Oh, I'll do that tomorrow. That's a great idea."
That is a great idea.
We started putting.
I love all the branding. You know what I mean? It's so you do Mindset Mondays. You have Tattoo Tips Tuesdays. 3 minutes to better tattooing. There's all these. They're really clever sort of ways to let people know what it is that you're offering. And so I think that's actually a really great. I think that's a really. Hold on. Okay. So I wanted to ask you. There's a question that came from the chat. Jason Leeser asked, "How many hours a day do you spend drawing, Jake Meeks?"
What's up, Jason? How are you? I always draw those first couple of hours. So from 6 until like 8 or 8:30. I watch CNBC in the mornings, and so when the opening bell, the stock market rings, that's whenever I go like, all right, I got to get up and do something else. So from 6 until about 8:30, basically every day I'm drawing, and then if I have big projects, I'll be drawing again that night. So a minimum of 2 hours a day. And sometimes, well, I mean, obviously on my tattoo days, it's the whole day because I still do that morning drawing. I might go to the gym or do, other kind of stuff from 10 until noon, but then I tattoo from noon until 6. And a lot of times when I get home at the end of the night, I'm like at least prepping for the next day. I don't like to go, even though I don't start new tattoos super often, like everything. Well, this week I have this new one. But this is one of maybe 3 new tattoos for the entire month of May. And so it's not that I'm always drawing for new stuff, but I am always drawing to solve the next problem in an existing tattoo. So even if I'm 20 hours into a back piece, I'll photograph it at the end of each session. And before I work on it again, I'll pull it up and just try to figure out what I'm doing that next day, So I do that most every night and or morning. I'll just sit down and just, even if I know what's happening with the tattoo as a whole, which hopefully I do, I'm just like, all right, this next day I'm coloring this dragonfly, and I'm gonna try to get the background from this point to this point. And if I get that far, I'll be happy, So I don't know.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about this idea. You have different days that you allocate for different things. So I heard you say it: buffer day, focus day, off day. Could you talk a little bit more about this and, kind of how does it pertain to your, like sort of philosophy here?
Yeah, well, I just think that if every day is a work day, then every day is kind of, and it's just identified as a work day. Like, I work Monday through Friday, but there's no real clarity on what makes a work day. I think when every day is a work day, it's an opportunity to procrastinate and put things off until the next day, because you can always finish it tomorrow. So you can always fumble around. You can always spend a little bit too long on Instagram or on whatever, and not get the work done. But the best example that I've had is, if you ever think of the day before you go on vacation and you have this to-do list and you're going to be gone, you're going to be at the beach for a week. And you have this to-do list that has to be done before you leave at 6 a.m. tomorrow to go to the airport. That is by far everyone's most productive day, the day before they leave town. And so my goal is to make every day like that as best I can. So the way that I do that is by separating the types of activities into those three categories: focus, buffer, and free. This isn't my invention. This is from Strategic Coach, but it works really well. Focus, buffer, and free. And then I have a weekly calendar that I know this day is a focus day, that day is a buffer day, that day is a free day. And if you respect those and you only do focus activities on focus days, you treat that like, oh, I don't have another focus day until next Wednesday. So if it's going to be done, I can't do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's a free day. So if it's going to be done, I have to get it done today, because I can't wait until next Wednesday when my next focus day is. And so that's the main reason that I break them up that way. It also helps me to, and I'll kind of run into what the difference is, what activities I do in each days, I guess, might be helpful. So a focus day for me is anything that either that's either is my highest financial productive day. So tattooing would be a focus activity to me, because it pays more dollars per effort, per time spent, than anything else that I probably do. Draw things that I consider in my unique ability. So the things that make me feel like I'm being super productive and I have more energy when I finish them than when I start them. So things that I can't really delegate off. So drawing for tattoos would be a focus day activity for me, because even though the drawing is not producing the dollar per hour, literally, it does further down the line produce the dollar per hour. I also, a lot of folks who keep up with our stuff here know that I own a real estate business with my wife. We have a lot of single family houses. And so my role in that is managing whenever there's a renovation happening. I'll kind of help manage the renovation. If strategic projects that have to do with that business. So right now we're looking at developing flex spaces. So we're going to build spaces that could either be artist studios or small HVAC companies or whatever. And so we're going to be actually developing land and building those. That's a strategic project that I would consider a focus activity. So things that that either produce the highest income for me or are the things that I consider my unique ability, the things that I feel like I do better than everyone else. In my world, not that I'm like the great real estate developer, but in my world, I'm the one that needs to do that thing. Those are focus activities. Buffer activities are the types of things that allow you to have really productive and clear focus days. So answering emails, grocery shopping, laundry, the kind of like stuff that you would do to make sure that you could have clear focus days would be buffer activities. And then free days, I don't do any of that. And you can talk to Gabe or Dan or whoever. And whenever it's a free day for me, good luck texting me and getting any response. I don't look at my phone. If I do, I'm certainly not looking at work stuff. Those days are kind of rejuvenation days. So that's the way that I separate those or categorize those three things. The free days, the great example that my coach gave me for the free days was, and I think we talked about this in the last Mindset Monday, was talking about the NFL. Most NFL games are on Sundays. And my coach asked the question, do you feel like that the guys, the starters, the Tom Brady's or the Aaron Rodgers or whoever of the world are really grinding it out and putting in the maximum amount of work on Saturday to prepare for the game on Sunday? It's like, well, no, of course they're not. That Saturday is their free day. So the idea there is so many of us work ourselves to death to earn a day off, right? You exhaust yourself to earn a day off. This flips that on its head, and it's using free time as a precursor to success rather than as a reward for exhausting yourself. So, the idea being, if I'm starting a new back piece tomorrow, I'm probably not just grinding through a bunch of drawing and painting today. Most likely I'm going to try to, eat well, get a good night's sleep, stretch, get some exercise, be clear and excited for the next day, so that I can really crank away on that bag piece. So. Oh, speaking of which, this that you have pulled up right now is something I wanted to talk about. I haven't released what the secret is, but I'll do it right here. Fireside Yacht Club is a trip that we're doing in September. It'll be the first one, and we're going to my boat in Heber Springs, Arkansas. We're gonna paint, draw, do some Mindset Monday stuff, do some podcasting, and just play, on jet skis and in the water. There are cliffs. If anyone's a daredevil, you can jump off cliffs. But Nick Baxter is going to come and teach with me, so it'll be the two of us on the boat. It'd be an awesome trip. It's a Sunday through a Thursday. So really Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are the real days. The Sunday and Thursday are the travel days. But we're going to go and do some plein air painting. I got a nice I was going to have everyone stay on the boat, but it's looking like that might get a little bit cramped, and some people are nervous about staying on boats. So I rented a nice Airbnb that's about 5 minutes from my boat. And the boat is a 2-bed, 2-bath motor yacht. It's big enough for all of us to go out and cruise for the day. We'll do dinner cruises. We'll draw and paint from the boat and from the shore. There's a cave system that's really cool called Blanchard Springs right up the road, that if everyone's down for that, we might go do a tour Blanchard Springs. But it'll be a lot of fun. It's something I hope to start doing twice a year, but this will be the first one. And I'll actually, if you go, you can already learn about it. If you go to firesidetattoo.com, there's a landing page for it, but I haven't put anything out on. This is all I've put out so far on social media.
Fireside Yacht Club.
Yacht Club.
It sounds amazing.
It's going to be a blast.
Well, I think that it would be such a fun thing to do. Go out and enjoy the beautiful weather on the yacht.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then of course, get to rub shoulders with the likes of you and Baxter, and then just as it grows, I'm sure just like Paradise, right? You have incredible people that come and are willing to share their experience, share their insights. It's an invaluable resource, really, and I think that it's something I appreciate a lot. So I'm glad to see it coming around, because we've got these online spaces, right, where we all hang out online, and there just isn't any friction, right? Mm-hmm. You can leave anytime you want. You don't have to really deal with people in real life, but I think that's a real important part of what Fireside does and what Reinventing does as well, is that they actually have in life meetups, right? There's this in real life dimension, and so I think that there's actually the opportunity for real friendship, right? And just building real world relationships that you just don't get online. Really
definitely, yeah. It's something that we've lost. We've moved. It's funny when you look back and see really what the pandemic kind of did to the way that we work together. I don't think I ever did a remote podcast before 2020. All of our podcasts were at conventions with people, or at guest spots with people, side by side. And the idea of looking through a computer at someone and doing an interview was so alien to me. I would have never, if you had pitched it to me in 2019, I would have been like, nah, I don't care about that. I need to be with the people, in order to feel the conversation out. And, I don't want to be worried about if we have what the bandwidth is, or if we anyone glitches or whatever. I don't want to think about any of that. But now it's so second nature that we sit here and and draw on a stream, and the entire Inside Fireside community is all done through Discord and Zoom, and so yeah, I'm excited to get back and do more kind of in-person stuff. I've picked up a little bit of the convention stuff again. I'm traveling. I just got back from Huntsville this past week, or weekend before last, and this coming weekend I'm teaching at the Ozark Tattooers Retreat in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So we're starting to get back to in-person stuff. But it's funny, I don't know that I was having this conversation with Jake and Jess, the guys that did the Explorer conferences, for so long. Mm-hmm. And they did a Memphis show, and we were talking at they're doing a lot of conventions. They're doing them monthly for the next year. And I was asking them about Explore because people loved it so much, and I actually never did one. Did you guys ever do an Explore? Anyone?
No, it was they were having it last year. I worked a convention in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and it was supposed to be the week after the like right after the convention ended. They were going to have an Explorer conference, and it got canceled. And then, as far as I knew, they weren't doing them anymore. So.
And that's right. They haven't been. And so I was talking to them about that, and they talked about that model just really starting to fall apart on them because, for one thing, people started doing so much, online, I guess, through the pandemic, and then so many artists are doing their own online. So a lot of the people that they would have on as presenters are doing their own things now. If you go to wherever, like go to any of your favorite tattooers, and I guarantee you they have some type of a course or a mentorship or some type of one-on-one that they're offering. And so because you can do it, kind of a la carte online and just tease out your, just with your favorite artists, their model of, having to bringing out like 10 or 12 artists, to do a 3 or 4 day seminar just wasn't selling tickets anymore. And they're hopeful that will come back at some point, but as of now, it hasn't. And so that's why I'm kind of hoping with something like the Yacht Club, it's first off, it's different, it's on a boat. But second, it's, we're only selling originally we were only selling 5 tickets. I think we're going to go up to 10 now that we have this Airbnb. But even still, 10 people with 2 kind of leaders, two artists, I believe is something that I hope is something that people would still be interested in. But the bigger models, like what Gabe was doing with the Worldwide Tattoo Conference and all that, apparently just hasn't worked as well over the last few years.
Well, I think that you have a really good point, and I believe that people are going to want to be in person again. It is a matter of time, so there will be a bit of just a bit of patience, just a little patience. But I really do think there's a lot of value in it. There's a dimension that you just simply cannot replicate through online. But I definitely want to open up to, we've got Spirit and Kyle with us, and so I'd love to hear you guys jump in. Yes, we'll definitely check out a little bit more. So Spirit, you have a question. To what extent has owning your own space benefited you as a whole? So Spirit is asking, being a shop owner, owning your own place, your own space, how do you think that's impacted or benefited your career?
I think it's been a little bit of double-edged. I definitely, it's just me in my space, me and my client, which my clients, especially the clients that I worked with at the shop that I was at a shop in Memphis for about 15 years, the same shop for about 15 years before I moved to a private space. And I've been in the private space since 2015. So almost this fall will be 9 years. And I miss the shop environment sometimes, like I miss having someone in the room tattooing with me. I miss a lot of the conversations and stuff like that. But as a whole, the ability to kind of create my own model, I started to focus entirely on large scale projects, and I was really able to craft the space to be what I wanted it to be. I didn't have as much control over music and other clients that were in and out, and other people, like the other artists in the shop, how their days were going obviously impacted me, my clients and all that. So having complete control over the types of clients that I take on, the environment, we just hang out and watch Netflix, and there's no second appointment for the day, so everyone at my old shop, we kind of all did like this. We were open 3 till 10. And we did this 3 to 6 and then a little break and then 7 to 10. Almost everyone booked that way. And because that's how it was done, that's how I always did it. And I was very unproductive in that model. Like sometimes it takes me an hour and a half to get into the tattoo and know kind of what direction I'm going with it. And it seemed like I would blink and it would be time to find a stopping point because I had another appointment coming in. And stopping that was huge for me. Now, we finish when we finish. I can I can make a lot more progress. I can keep people comfortable a lot easier because we can take, breaks and all that. So it allowed me to really kind of cultivate my, my client base the way that I and provide the environment that I wanted. But then again, like the downside is it is just me and them, and I do have some clients that just like to zone out and listen to headphones or watch shows and not talk. And I have other clients that want to do nothing but talk. So I'm kind of, there's no way out. Whatever they want to do is what I end up doing, I guess.
Amazing. Wanted to check out just Spirit asked if we could see a little bit more of the work. I'm not sure if you're seeing the screen. Is there anything that you would love to talk about? Any of these particular pieces that you were
let's see,
really exceptionally proud of? And
this is
the boat again. More boat.
Yeah, it takes 3 hours. It takes so long to watch that thing, but it's a
3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour.
3-hour watch.
Love it. Yeah. What can we? All right. This is a painting.
Yeah. That's a painting of my niece Mia. I've been painting her. It's my brother's daughter. And I've been painting her every year on her birthday since she was born. And so I've been doing. Sometimes I do charcoal. Sometimes I do oil sketches. But I think I'm going to go oil for the rest of the time. I love. I don't tattoo portraits, but I love to paint portraits, especially portraits that are kind of loose like that. I like stacking paint. One of my favorite things, all my favorite painters and artists are great at doing just enough to get the point across and not like overly render. Like they're not trying to trick you into thinking that it's not paint, like it looks believable from a distance. And then as soon as you get up on it, you see these big chunks of, white paint like laid on the nostril or whatever. I love that. Like that's my favorite thing to see and my favorite thing to do. So like working with hair, like how little can I say in that hair to get the point across of like how her hair is falling, and I'm not great at it yet. I don't paint. Yeah. I'm a much better tattooer than I'm a painter because I do so much more tattooing, but I do love playing with it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Here's a charcoal.
Yeah. With charcoal. Yeah. It's my, I do a lot. My buddy Adam Shaw, who's a big mentor of mine, we used to do life drawing. We used to split the cost of a model every Wednesday and just draw for like 2 or 3 hours. And most of these are from our live drawing stuff. And I learned so much from him. He's one of those guys that's so good at just getting enough across that you understand like what's happening. But he doesn't like over render anything. And so I would literally just set up over the back of his shoulder. So he'd have an easel at one point, and then I would set up just over his shoulder so that I could, even though I was drawing the figure from a different angle, I was seeing like how he would turn the big chunks of charcoal on its side and just describe like the shadow shape of a forearm and then let it taper to the wrist and then just like drift off. And it's like the pinky finger and it's all one mark, and you're just like, oh shit, man, that's really good. So all of this stuff is just me kind of trying to mimic Adam's work.
So I would say that you just threw out a term there, shadow shapes. You use a lot of, let's call it art school lingo.
Right.
And so how do you think this really like informs your tattooing? Because I believe in it. I think that there's a real connection there, but how do you see sort of these, let's call it foundations or fundamentals of how art is made versus like tattoos? Like tattoos they don't have to be art, but
yeah. I mean, well, just even in this little drawing that I'm doing right now, like for this tattoo this week, I'm just basically, it's noisy now, but I'm trying to simplify it by separating light and shadow shapes, connecting shadow shapes together. And I think that usually when you run into troubles in a tattoo, like it's not going a drawing or a tattoo, it's not going the direction that you want, it always comes back to those fundamentals, to those principles. There's no way to just continue to make it fancier and solve the problem. My coach Dan Solon says no one solves a problem by adding complexity. You can only solve a problem by simplifying it to its like most basic kind of elements. And in that he doesn't draw, but that perfectly describes drawing and tattooing, because like when something is wrong, like when you can't figure out what's wrong in the tattoo, it's a shape problem, it's a value problem, it's an edge problem, or it's a color problem. And that's about it, you know, like, and if you, and shapes are more important than colors, and values are more important than colors. So if you just go back through that hierarchy and you start asking yourself, like, you know, do I have a clear separation between my light and shadow shapes? Can I tell where the light is coming? Like, I'm not far in this drawing, but it's very clear, you know, like there's light catching over here and there's light catching on this guy's shoulder. So it's very clear that the light's shooting from over here. If he was lit backwards and this was lit this way, then there would be some confusion there. And if you didn't know how to, if you didn't understand how light and shadow, or how light reveals form, or how light and shadow shapes separate and or work together, you would just keep trying to add detail in the water, or, you know, like you'd find some other, or make something brighter or whatever, you know, you'd just be kind of throwing darts at a board. But, you know, if you know the most important thing is the arrangement of dark and light shapes, you can always come back to that and solve the problem. And that's through simplifying the problem. It's not through making the drawing fancier.
Love it. Well, I wanted to jump over. It's your drawing is looking incredible, and I'm sure that your client's gonna love it. We can clearly see, like you said, there's a real emphasis on this foreground figure. So you can see the light and lightest lights and darkest darks right there. And as you continue to sort of parse out all of the value structure, I think it's going to be even stronger. Because again, it's like, you know, we kind of stop here, we look at this figure, but then we go beyond. They're looking at this like landscape, and so we're actually going to be prompted to look back there at the mountains as well. And
yeah,
there's sky behind us, there's space, and then the mountainscape. So yeah, I think it's really, really wonderful composition.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I think, you know, just thinking about those silhouetted shapes is so important, and connecting. I learned from Dan Marshall in his watercolor workshop the value of connecting shadow shapes. So the shadow of the figure connecting to the shadow of the trees, and as it wraps to the back, that'll connect to the shadow shape of something else. And when you have a lot going on, locking those things together is really helpful. It gives it kind of gives a path for the viewer to follow. Whereas if you have a lot of fragmented shadow shapes that don't really relate to each other, then you end up with something that's a lot more bitsy. And it's very common in watercolor, especially like plein air watercolor. If you ever look at Dan Marshall's work, you'll see how he kind of like, he will invent long stretched out cast shadows just to connect them to the next shadow. And it works so well. It's a great trick.
Well, I wanted to share Kyle Olson's screen because he's over here busily drawing away. Kyle, we're gonna share you. Yeah. So here's what Kyle is working on for tonight's tonight's drawing exercise. Kyle, take it away.
Yeah, just trying to figure everything out. I was trying to do a rose instead of whatever the carnation flower it is, but like it didn't want to be a rose, so I'm just letting that be, and I'm just building up to everything right now. Just doing whatever I can to, then really focusing on like squinting and trying to keep everything like super, super legible as possible. Is like one of the main things I've been working on recently.
This one's so different from Jake's. It's like Jake's it has so much depth, and this one has like just a really narrow, like really shallow kind of depth of field, if you like. But again, I'm drawn right to this high contrast, right where all the highlight is on the skull face. It's very cool, Kyle.
Yeah, it's super cool. Super cool. I love all the combination of textures and stuff like that. And you get to play with like kind of detail. There's so much shadow shape. You get to play with a lot of detail in the shadow shapes, which is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Any critiques that you see off or anything like that?
Yeah, at this point, I really like it. Now I think the overall shape's working great. I mean, it's really clear where you're driving attention. You know, your strongest contrast is in the focal point. Of course, if there's a face, people want to look at a face no matter what. And so you set yourself up for success, you know, with having like everything framing, you know, a head, and then you push that contrast in the head, and everything else supports it. I think it's working great. You know, as those fingers like bend back towards the head at the tips, you know, they could catch little, you know, flecks of light, maybe approaching the bright lights that are in the cheek and nostril of the skull. But I don't know, that I would just test and see if it works or not. That's the beauty of drawing these programs now is like you can just make everything, if you do it on separate layers, especially like when you start doing the highlights of the hand, you can just go through and do them full highlights and then just drop the opacity of it until it hits the level of highlight that you need, and you're like, okay, that's about right. So,
the only thing that comes up to me, and this isn't really, I think it's more of an opportunity rather than a criticism, is it's so square. I know you're using the obese back, right? I think that's the obese back image from Tattoo Smart or something, right? So it's a wide person's back, but it's almost like if you ended up like sort of extending it, like the image of the back piece extended onto the arms itself, you might end up with a slight more V sort of shape. Again, it could end up being like, could be like an awesome suit where the sleeves are actually, integrated into the back piece in some way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally does.
But I mean, I just like what everything Jake was saying. I think is so. I think it's so pertinent to it. Just how the textures are really, beautiful, and then all the shadow shapes are really great too. I guess that's the only thing that I'm seeing is like, if you sort of made it just overall. So listen to me. I'm like criticizing this amazing work. I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Criticizing, you're helping, man. It's different.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very cool. And if it's almost like, rather than say like, oh, you got to start over, it's like, well, just keep going. You know what I mean? Really push it and see if it like, like, can you include sleeves into this back piece? And then it's like, I don't know, could be out of control. We've got a.
I like how it, like, at first glance, I wasn't seeing, when it was really dark, I wasn't seeing the shape of the body quite as clear. And I saw it as a back piece that was like centered, like the head was dead in the center. But I like that you've offset the head where like the eye is right in the center of the back. And so that you've got like the bulk of the head is on the right side of the figure. And then that leaves the left side of the figure that for the hand to kind of sweep up and, direct people towards the head. That's I like that. I like that layout. That's a really that's one of the things in portrait painting that when you're like lining up to do like a plane, like a life painting or whatever, one of the kind of rules I see a lot of people follow is rather than centering the head in the canvas, they center one eye in the canvas. And so that's kind of what you did here.
Yeah, that's a great point. Here's a question from Justin. Justin asks, I have a question. I recently did a color flower tattoo as a cover-up. I used a lot of blues to hide the pre-existing tattoo. We did the outline in one session and then the color in another session. Justin, I'd love it if you could complete your question and just sort of get to what was the question you had for it, since we have Jake here. So feel free to pop that into the chat. We'll show it. And then we'd love to ask Jake. Here we go. Here's the second, part 2. When doing the touch-up, I ended up starting to cover up some of the detail lines that I did in the flower. Do you normally go back over outlines too? Yeah, this is I guess it's just a general technique question. Let's see if I'll let you field this, Jake. What are your thoughts on maybe I guess covering up your own work and
yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty common for me, especially, a lot of times with cover-ups, with cover-ups, we make the best educated guess that we can, and within the skin's going to be skin. Something's going to come back and be like, well, that wasn't what I was hoping. And so you end up kind of tweaking from there. But as far as coming back with lines, I always bring a liner back out at the end of my tattoos. I don't focus a lot on getting super flawless lines with a lot of different tapers and line weights early on. The only time that if in a multi-session tattoo, the only time that I'll really like try to sculpt and build my line weight up first is if it's someone from out of town and I know they're going to live with it for a while, and I don't want them to live with a lot of like single pass scratchy stuff. I just want it to look nice for them to show off. But it's really kind of just a waste of my time and their money, in my opinion, otherwise, because I feel like whenever I pack black and even light color, yellows, light blues, greens, as you're filling color, you always end up like packing over those lines, and everything affects those lines when they heal. Like, even though you think that a light tone doesn't affect a dark tone, it does. It affects the edges of it. And so what I do at the end of most of my tattoos is I come back with a liner, and whether it's to your point, the details like inside of a flower or something like that, or whether it's the outer edge lines, I try to decide where I want to push my focal point the most. And I'll identify 3 to 5 areas that I really want to like sculpt and build the lines back up. And so I'll use to my advantage some of the lines that were like packed over in the color sessions. I'll let those fall back. And then my foreground lines, like for example, in Kyle, like in the hand, in Kyle's piece here, I might come back and really sculpt the lines on the outer edge of that hand to push it forward. But then I would let some of the lines and the flowers and stuff behind it, if I packed color or black and gray or whatever over them, I would let them be, so that I'm kind of, trying to use that push pull type of trick. And really, like, the one thing I've got, if you've I forget what's the name of the person who asked the question.
Justin.
I did an episode a few years ago with Marcus Leonard, and I think it's a 2-part episode, but we get into a lot to edges, and he made the comment that the bold lines are our greatest kind of secret weapon as tattooers. They draw more attention than anything else. And Marcus made the point that a line, especially as it gets thicker or whatever, a line is 2 edges. It's not 1 edge. So you turn it into an edge by, shading hard off of one side of it or whatever. So if you think about it that way, using it all over at the front of the tattoo kind of like uses up all of your superpower right there from the start. Whereas if you save it to the end of the tattoo, you get to really use your greatest kind of asset, your greatest tool the most effectively, because you go like, all right, I don't need lines everywhere. I need the strongest lines where I'm trying to drive the most attention. So that's a great episode. If you, Mark is a super smart guy. You could just Google or YouTube search Fireside Marcus Leonard. I don't think that we've done a deep dive page on it. It's not on the website yet. It would only be on YouTube or on, actually, you don't even have to watch that one. It's on whatever you listen to podcasts on, iTunes, whatever. But it's a great one, and it goes deep into line work. And Marcus, if you know his work, does a lot of he does a lot with like edges, with soft edges, hard edges, transitions, things like that.
So Spirit really appreciated that insight into what is the nature of the line. I actually got a critique on some work I did from Marcus, and he basically said the same thing you did, like, using the outlines to really make the customer happy in that moment. It's important, but again, you're always gonna go back and refine them if you can. So sometimes you only have one opportunity to work on a piece, so you only get a single pass at saturation and at line qualities and stuff. But if you get a chance to rework it, then yes. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
And then go over those lines again. You know what I mean? Hit that up.
Definitely.
Justin says, thank you so much. It's been challenging to work with color tattoos done in multiple sessions. Yeah, I think I would just second what Jake says. I think it's so important that you're basically giving it a pass, right? You're going over everything and tightening up those lines, even if it just takes a few extra minutes, can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this has been such a great conversation, and thank you so much for sharing your process with us. What do we got? We got more stuff in the chat. Yeah. Christopher Nice says thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was that was fun, and good to see you both. And yeah, anyone, I would love to get some folks from the reinventing community at the yacht club trip. That'd be super cool. If anyone wants to check it out, just go to Fireside. If you can, will you pull it up real quick and just show how to get to it if you can?
Yes. What did you want to see exactly?
The yacht club. So it's just so people can learn more about it. If you go to firesidetattoo.com,
got it.
I'll show you where it is. It should be on the front page, but we're not.
Let me pull that up. So
it's September. It's actually the week after Labor Day, I believe. After the Labor Day holiday, it's a Sunday through a Thursday, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Thanks. Yeah, you keep talking, everyone. Yeah, like while I'm looking for this. Yeah.
I can always, if anyone has any questions, you can always reach out to me directly.
Reach out to Jake.
Yeah.
Jake, where can we find you?
You can email me, jake@firesidetattoo.com. My Instagram for my actual tattoos is Plug Ugly Art, PLUGUGLYART, or at Fireside Tattoo is the Fireside Instagram, and my assistant Allie manages that, and she's great at screenshotting anything that needs to go to me and sending it that way. So there you go. There's the yacht club. So if you go to firesidetattoo.com and click on I believe it's the education tab, you'll see the yacht club. And there's a little video. This one doesn't fit. I put this sales page together before Nick Baxter had agreed to do this one. So this one doesn't say anything about Nick, but he will be there. He's going to teach. And if you guys ever spent any time with him, he's quiet and not like overly personable whenever you first meet him. But spending 4 days with him, you'll really get to know him. And he's an awesome guy, super funny. It's funny. So many people meet Nick at conventions and they're like, "Man, I don't think he likes me." And it's like, he just doesn't. He just has to warm up. You have to give him a minute. So it'd be a great if you've met Nick and don't think that he likes you, you should come on the trip. You'll get to know him a little bit.
Yeah, Nick is incredible educator as well. I got a chance to take his seminar. It was really great experience. I've got a chance to meet Nick. I got a chance to meet you, Jake, in person at the Paradise.
Yeah.
The Paradise Tattoo Gathering, everybody. Scan the QR code now at the bottom of the screen for more information about the Paradise Tattoo Gathering. It's in beautiful Jiminy Peak, Massachusetts. So it is like a paradise on earth. It
is. It's not like any I don't care how many tattoo conventions you've done. It's nothing like any of them. It is its own animal for sure. It's that's why Gabe named it the Gathering instead of the Paradise Tattoo Show or Convention. It doesn't feel at all like a tattoo convention. It's really a great learning opportunity for artists. Yeah. Super chill. I mean, everybody there is just it just draws the right people there. It's really great.
There is some tattooing going on. Kyle Olson actually will be tattooing this year at Paradise Tattoo Gathering. Got to watch Kyle do some awesome tattoos last year. But again, like even if you just for tattooers, you go and there's so many opportunities for learning. So many seminars. Jason Leeser will be teaching a seminar. Plus, there's an incredible lineup of folks coming this year. So
yeah, tons of paid seminars, tons of free seminars. So if you just bought it's really affordable. If you just bought the 4-day pass, it's like $450, like $100 a day. And there's enough stuff going on the main stage, which is included, and all the tattoo booths just to do that. Now, if you wanted to take individual workshops and seminars, they're a la carte. You can do that as well. But like my seminar, for example, I'll teach called Find Your Style. I've been doing it for a few years now. That'll be free on the main stage. I think Jason Leeser's doing maybe some free and some paid ones, but his paid seminars are maybe $25 to $50. They're real affordable. Last year we had, one of the most expensive seminars was probably Soba's. It was like $550, but you built a coil machine and you left with the machine. So, you would pay that just to buy one of his machines, really. So the fact that you get to actually build one and he helps you build it and you leave with it, it was such a huge value there. So it's such a cool show. It's great.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that people are getting their plans together. Let's see. I'm gonna come back here to us. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. This has been Drawing for Tattooers. Kyle, if you want to tell us where we can find you.
If anybody wants to reach out and talk with me, I'm more than welcome to do so on Instagram at Olson_tattoos, OLSON, or shoot an email at trinityartcollective.com. And I'm more than happy to talk tattoos or anything with anybody.
That's excellent. Spirit, I don't know if you're still with us, but you can find Spirit at Tattoos by Spirit on the internet. He's all over the place. TikTok, Instagram, Tattoos by Spirit. Check out Spirit's work. Again, it's great to see all of you today. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. One more question in the chat. What we got? Yeah. Atomic Injections. Great to see you, man. Thank you for coming. Jake Meeks. Thank you so much. Yeah, you used to do the Reinventing Monday morning show at, way back in the day. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy being back on it. You're doing a great job taking it over. It's perfect.
Thanks. No, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Well, we'd like to thank Tattoo Now for making this space possible, and of course, we'd like to thank Guy Etchison for being the founder and inspiration behind the Reinventing Tattoo community. You can learn more about Tattoo Now by visiting tattoonow.com. You can learn more about Guy Etchison by visiting guyetchison.com. But thank you to Guy and Gabe for everything you do. We really appreciate this space. But again, these online spaces are important, and it's a way for us to gather. But also, it's a real way for us to ultimately get together in person. Right? That's the real deal. Right? We really do want to see you at these events that are upcoming. And of course, check out more about Fireside by visiting firesidetattoo.com. Join the Fireside.
Yeah, inside Fireside, join it.
Yeah, join Fireside. It's awesome. There's so many things to do. So all these online communities, they're really centered towards tattoo artists and the stuff that you care about, right? You're gonna find like-minded people, but there's also tension. There's also room for for contradictions and all of this stuff. That's really a really important point about like how people get along. And so I just want to thank everybody again for coming. If you're still with us, join us next week. We're gonna do some more drawings and stuff. Jake, come back anytime. It was great to have you. Yeah, you're welcome to come anytime.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too. All right. Well, happy drawing, everybody, and we'll see you next stream. All right. See ya. Thank you.